Good morning, it's Alicia, the Zipper Lady, and this is Cushions 101. This morning I am going to start a little series of videos to help you make a very efficient and beautiful cushion cover. It could be a cover for something that's already existing, or it could be something that you're going to make the insert. But predominantly, let's talk about it being a slipcover over something that's already existing. The first little video is going to be about setting up and what you need. And we're going to talk a little bit about fabrics for this first slipcover of yours or cushion cover. The second one is about making a pattern off of an old cushion. What to do, what not to do. The third is cutting and prepping for your cushion. The fourth is making welt. The fifth is attaching the welt to your cushion cover, joining the welt, and making zipper bands. And the sixth is putting it all together so that at the end of the sixth video, you can see an actual finished cushion cover. So to get started this morning, this is the piece that I'm going to cover for you. And this is something I made. It's filled with feathers, downproof ticking, and it is a boxed cushion. This is boxing. I use a lot of basic, but not technical terms about cushions when I sew, because I'm learning that everybody calls something different. And so if we just call this the top, and we call that the bottom, and we call this the box, I think that we have a set of terms that everybody can relate to. So this is my cushion, and let's talk about fabrics just a little tiny bit. Because this is your first cushion cover, there's a bunch of things that you should watch out for. And you're going to go to the store and you're going to buy a piece that's a yard long, and we're going to test drive it because I think everything should be washed. Whether it's going outside and it's umbrella, or a acetate wallaby, or if it's cotton or linen, everything needs to be washed. And so you're going to go to the store, you're going to buy a piece that's a yard long, serge it, measure it, throw it in the washer and dryer like you normally do clothing. So this is the first piece. This is an outdoor piece. And honestly, since this is your first time making cushions, I wouldn't mess with this because you're going to have to make banding. You're going to have to match everything going up and over your cushion. Like this. And it gets a little too technical for the first time. So I'd like you to plan on something that's a solid color. Now it can be a piece of sunbrella. Sunbrella comes in different weights. This is a sunbrella cushion I made for a guy who has pedicabs. And this is a really soft sunbrella. And I did wash this first, which really does help. It has more drapeability. But you can see that it's pretty soft, but it has some body to it. This guy has body, but it's got this beautiful chevron that is just a bit beyond for the first set of cushion covers. This is a beautiful piece of linen that's embroidered. And I would probably not recommend this for anybody with dogs because the threads on all this embroidery are very loose, which means that the first time the dog jumps up on it, you have a pulled thread. But the weight of this is pretty nice. This is heavier than I guess I would probably call this a drapery weight. It does have some drape to it. It's thicker than a handkerchief linen. It's pretty sturdy. It doesn't have a lot of stretch to it. I think this would be a nice weight minus the embroidery. This is a piece of something called kryptonite or krypton fabric. This stuff holds up to dogs really well. I don't like it on my bare legs. So if you're going to be thinking about sitting on something that with bare legs, take that into consideration when you buy your fabric. Here's a nice piece of linen. It's a little bit heavier than the last one. It has a beautiful sheen which will go away when you wash it. But it's a lot easier when you initially are cutting it to tell which is the right and the wrong side and to keep them separated for your own use. Here is a Waverly Outdoor, and I really, really like this fabric. It has an overall design, which you probably wouldn't have to match unless you really wanted to get crazy, but it would also be something that would hide a lot of mistakes. And then here's my favorite. I love stripes, and I really love denim, and I like to use a denim that's kind of a medium weight. I go to Cars Textile a lot. The only deal is that you have to buy a roll, which is usually 100 yards, and you need to know what ounce you want. And so I would never buy anything less than an 8 ounce. So this is what I'm going to make my cushions out of. The materials that you need are basically set up on how many cushions you're going to make, and if they have stripes or not, and how much you have shrinkage. So I like using a 54-inch wide fabric or a 60-inch wide because I get better working amounts of fabric in a 54 or 60. I would never use a quilting fabric to make a slipcover with, simply because the fabric is too thin and it just won't hold up to kids, dogs, and the in-laws. So there you are. Let me start with the things that you need as far as tools go. And the first thing you're going to look at is my mat. And I do virtually everything on a cutting mat, a rolling cutter with a rolling cutter. And this is a Fisker. This is a 60 millimeter blade. It's the biggest one they make. And the reason I like this is two reasons. First off, I feel like I have more control. The other thing is that it's a thicker blade and it'll cut through the denim easier for you. And the other thing that I really like about it is that they seem to stay sharp longer, because these are really expensive. And so I usually buy these blades, and I usually buy the Olfa blades because I can buy 3 on sale at Joann's. So there's that. The rolling cutter mat is really important. And by the way, underneath here, I can shove my mat back and I can press right here. Then I have my favorite 48-inch ruler. And the thing that I like about it is that it's about 1/4 of an inch thick. It has some heft to it. I got this at Home Depot in the carpentry tool line. And then this is my Dritz ruler, and the reason I like this Dritz ruler is it has a black line which shows up on most fabrics, and it's very thin, which means that the fact that I like to make everything within a 32nd of an inch, it makes it easier with a thin line. There's a few of these rulers that have got a wide yellow line. Stay away from those. The other thing that I use that most people that sew don't is a carpenter's tape. And this is a lever lock. The reason I like this is wherever you pull it out is where it stays. It doesn't snap back and get your fingers. And when you want to release it, there's a lever right here, and you can control it. You're going to be measuring a lot. I never realized how much math there was in making slipcovers until I'd made a few. And you're going to measure from side to side on your pillow, top to bottom. And if you have old cushions, you're going to measure the front, the middle, the back. Then you're going to do the middle back to front and side to side again, so that you have a lot of measurements to make sure that this is actually going to fit. I just think that this is more precise than the tool, that little fabric tape measure that everybody uses when they're sewing. I just think this is a better tool. And of course, my handy dandy Kai scissors. I buy these from Wolf's. The reason is because they will dull the points for me, so that when I carry them in my back pocket, they don't cut something important. And this is my favorite ripping tool. This is also on my website, thezipperlady.com. And the cutting blade is on the inside, and it comes in a pack with 5 extra blades because sharp is good. You don't cut yourself as often with sharp. And the really cool thing about having the cutting surface on the inside is you can put your finger on the outside for more control, so that you don't hurt yourself. And of course we have feet for the sewing machine. I drive an old Bernina 950. This is my cording foot. The cording rides in this divot. You can tell it's been pretty well worn. And this is my zipper foot. The needle on a Bernina 950 goes back and side to side or back and forth. And so you can use it on either side of the foot without having to change feet. This also is a quick release with a bayonet. And I have to tell you that changing feet, I would rather buy a new sewing machine than have to change feet. That's how bad it is for me. So this is the zipper we're going to use, and of course this is on my website too. This is a coil zipper. The coil is nylon. The tape is polyester, so it's good for inside or out. Short auto lock pulls. And the reason for the auto lock is because when you quit pulling, it locks into place and your cushion cover doesn't open up. You're going to want yardage of this. We'll talk about that in a minute. Then this is the welt cord that I use. And I spent a good 20 years trying to develop this after Conso went out of business. Because I used to use a Conso cotton welt, and I absolutely adored it. It was very smooth, and these threads on the outside were just fabulous. But since I wash everything, I was having to pre-wash all my cotton welt. So this is polyester. Because it looks like paper towels, and then it has the polyester threads over the top of it, it's very, very even, which gives you a nice, tidy welt, and it doesn't shrink. You're going to cut the cover 1 3/4, and to go over a 5 32 inch welt, and that'll give you exactly a 1/2 inch seam allowance when you're done. So those are the basic things that you need to get started. You need to go out and look for a piece of fabric, get a yard, serge it, wash it, measure it before and after, of course, and then you need a little book. And I keep this because it's graph paper. It doesn't mean that I'm any more precise with it. I just like graph paper. So I put my cushions up at the top, striped outdoor cushions. These are the seats, these are the backs, and these are the pillows. I normally use a marker so that I can see this without my glasses on. And these are the precise finished measurements for everything. This is the 3 for the boxing or the side piece. Here's the 3. Here's the 4 boxing on the seat. The height. So once you get everything washed and you figure out what you're going to have as far as a shrinkage rate, then you can start planning your cushions on what you've got left. Then you can go to the store and buy exactly the right amount of yardage. Now what you're going to do is you're going to measure everything, and then you're going to add at least 1 inch for seam allowances. You might like to use a 3/4 of an inch, but the main way to determine what your seam allowance needs to be is how wide your foot is. My own personal feeling is that if your serger foot is 3/4 of an inch, then that's what you should use. If you find that a 3/4 of an inch works better into your foot, it doesn't drag or tug, at that point you use 3/4. Me, I use a 1/2 inch because I can't remember to add that extra 1/4 of an inch. And I end up always cutting everything short. So there you go. Get started, get all your measurements, and we'll see you in the second video. Ta for now.